in the end.
With Namco having both major success in the arcades with Time Crisis 1 and 2, many people were wondering what was next for the series. Well, we would still have to wait a while for the next entry in the series while Namco tried to figure out any possible improvements. In the meantime, they figured giving the people a little appetizer to warm them up would be a good idea. With Namco having success with the System 23 arcade board, they figured the most upgraded version of them all, the Super System 23 Evolution 2, deserved the most insane light gun game they've ever made up to this point: Crisis Zone. Now, Crisis Zone went back to the one-player formula seen in Time Crisis 1, but it switched out Richard Miller's straight Voight Infinity, or VSSC handguns in the case of Time Crisis 2, for a Steyr Mannlicher TMP, a machine pistol that no doubt offered a lot more to be shot at in very little time. Combined with environments that had this idea in mind, and it created a nice side addition to the already two existing games. However, like Time Crisis 2, it would not see a release until the PS2. Though unlike Time Crisis 2, which launched early in the PS2's lifespan, Crisis Zone didn't come out until 4 years after the initial launch. My guess as to why it took so long is that Namco's other light gun games, the Time Crisis games, but also Vampire Knight and Ninja Assault, took higher priority to port. That's why it wasn't until E3 2004 when Namco revealed that Crisis Zone would come to PS2 later that fall. In the build-up to E3, it was revealed that Crisis Zone would follow in the footsteps of Time Crisis 3's PS2 port. The game would contain not just the original arcade mode, but would also contain a side mode a la Rescue Mission mode from Time Crisis 3. However, unlike that mode, which took place around the same time as the main campaign of TC3, this mode would be a direct sequel to the arcade campaign, on top of the standard Crisis Mission mode and a bevy of special weapons to unlock. The game was then announced to appear as part of Namco's E3 2004 lineup. Shortly after, the game was confirmed to be getting a European PS2 release courtesy of Sony Computer Entertainment Europe. This sounds like the inverse of a Sony game getting an international PS2 release by a different publisher. See Ghost Hunter, which actually coincidentally was published by Namco in North America. By September 2004, the game officially went gold and released in October, despite being planned for September, for $60 with the GunCon 2. Cheaper, obviously, for the game itself. Crisis Zone was developed and published by Namco and originally released in arcades worldwide in December of 1999. The PS2 version released in PAL territories on September 17, 2004. The North American PS2 version was released on October 19, 2004 under the name Time Crisis: Crisis Zone. I was never a fan of this name change, mainly because I could put two and two together even as a kid, but Namco didn't think people could 5 years later? My guess is that it had been long enough, so maybe people forgot and that's why they did it. Or maybe putting the Time Crisis name in front of it would sell more. I don't know. Shoot, it looks like they just took the Time Crisis 3 logo, exercised the 3 off of it, and then slapped Dash Crisis Zone's logo underneath like a bad Photoshop job. In spite of this, the game had mostly positive reviews, but slightly less so than the other Time Crisis games. Despite this, I think any fan of PS2 light gun games should not overlook this one. Let's find out why. Crisis Zone has two main modes of play: Story Mode and Crisis Mission Mode. Well, there's a couple bonus modes that unlock as you further play along in the game. Special Story Mode is the first mode here, and well, aside from a couple sections in each scenario where you use a different weapon and have the option to use a handgun and a shotgun in addition to the default machine gun, it's really not much different. It's the same stories with a few changes. And you have Trial Mode, which allows you to basically do any stage you want, kind of like in the past Time Crisis games where you would unlock a stage after completing it, and then you could do time or score attack runs. It's the same thing here. Crisis Mission Mode, meanwhile, is broken down into 5 categories of missions: Machine Gun, Special Weapons, Select Weapon, Extra Weapon, and Boss Battle. Each mission will have a goal that you will need to complete. They start off easy enough, but they get up there in difficulty as you move to the different zones. Completing these missions will not only help you get better at the game, but they will also unlock bonuses for you to use. More on all that later. Well, there is one mode I forgot to mention, and that's Trial Mode, both for time attack and score attack. Oh wait, I did mention it earlier, oops. But you have to unlock it first. So it all starts with Story Mode. At first, you'll only have the original arcade scenario available. The plot takes place in the year 2000. Garland Electric Industries opens in August 2000 on the outskirts of London. Garland Square, that is. It's a seemingly futuristic complex with an array of department stores, a hotel, a park, and an office building. It basically was going to do a lot and bring a lot of money to the city. But on October 16, 2000, tragedy strikes and the complex gets taken over by the URDA, a terrorist group that has no demands or hostages. Rather, they want to overthrow London by overheating the nuclear reactor that powers Garland Square. We know this, but Scotland Yard and MI6 don't. Therefore, they send in the Special Tactical Forces 1st Platoon Unit, led by Claude McGarren. Misspelled Crode McGalen in the arcade version, no doubt a Japanese English pronunciation, if you will. Armed with the machine guns and riot shields, it's up to them to stop the URDA. Crisis Zone has the same duck and cover gameplay seen in the past Time Crisis games. However, as opposed to just using whatever cover is around you to hide, you are given the addition of a riot shield. This allows things to be more mobile since you can have a seemingly invincible piece of armor to protect you at any time you need to reload. The other big change is your default weapon, a 40-round machine gun, or machine pistol, or whatever you want to call it. It can run out very fast though. Luckily, reloading is handled the same way as in the other Time Crisis games. There are 3 stages overall, plus a final stage that is just one long boss battle. Well, as long as it can be by arcade rail shooter standards. And unlike the Time Crisis games, there are no separate sections in each of the stages. No stage 1-1, 1-2, etc. Yet despite this, the flow of the game doesn't feel far off from the other Time Crisis games. Combine that with the similar nature gameplay mechanics of the other games, and you have one that can easily be picked up by fans of the series, even if you haven't played one of these games before. You'll still pick up on this. This seems to be a common trend in light gun games, but that's not a bad thing. Neither are the controls. Speaking of which, you'll have several ways to control it depending on your setup. Ideally, as I've said before, and will continue to say every time I talk about these games, the best setup is a gun console with a compatible TV. If you can't perform that way, the other 2 best ways are a send-in on real hardware or emulation. Though, due to the rapid-fire nature of the default gun, I would not recommend using the recoil if you have a send-in gun with recoil in this game. Personally speaking, I've had issues where the send-in will just lock up and I need to disconnect and reconnect it. I don't know if it's specifically the recoil or something else. Emulation with a mouse as the gun works very well, but if you can use a light gun in PCSX2, that's also fine. Across all gun options, the inputs work as they should and they're easy enough to remember. It's very simple and to the point. Controller is an option, but again, I don't recommend this. In general, those who have played Time Crisis 2 and 3 for even a small amount of time will pick up on the controls here. They just work, and I can't put it any more obviously. I feel like I'm retreading ground here, kind of like the graphics section. Speaking of which, much like Time Crisis 2's PS2 port, Crisis Zone has undergone a graphical overhaul for its PS2 port. Many of the same improvements return. Sharper looking models when it comes to characters, buildings, environmental pieces, vehicles, the handful that do appear, etc. Colors are also not as bright when it comes to these objects, but the models do look less blocky. I want to say that this is running on some version of the Time Crisis 3 engine, since it looks much closer to that game than Time Crisis 2. I also love the game's urban theming, though it doesn't lead to as much variety with the level design as seen in the other games. Though, Grass Market District does have a different flair, which is nice. Though much of what I said about the graphics can be carried over from my past Time Crisis game reviews, there is something that can't be. The fog. See, when you shoot a light gun at the screen when in game, normally the screen flashes. However, due to the rapid-fire nature of the machine gun, this was not an option because it could have caused epilepsy. This is one of the reasons those warnings and manuals exist. This wasn't the case in the arcade version, but that wasn't going to be the case in the home version. So to prevent this, the game has implemented a fog filter that only appears when shooting. However, this is still distracting as hell, and there is still intermittent flashing when you start shooting. Fortunately for those of you playing in emulation, there is an X Delta patch you can apply to remove this fog. I don't know if this works on real hardware, probably not, but it's a godsend for emulation. The fact that there is also so much hectic action while the game manages to keep a smooth 60 frames per second is impressive as hell. Not much more to add. The sound is also on point like it usually is in these games. The music has a more action-oriented feel than the grand orchestral epic battles heard in Time Crisis 3. I guess that makes sense here since we're dealing with more close-quarters combat. In that way, it feels more like Time Crisis 2's soundtrack. Still, it's all good. The sound effects are pretty good. There's a lot more here that deal with destruction. Sounds of various objects getting destroyed, crazy chaotic gunfire going off a good chunk of the time, crisis shot warning sounds, almost like what you've seen in Virtua Cop, environmental sounds, etc. It all sounds good. The voice acting, I mean, it was another Japanese main game that was only voiced in English. I think we all know where this is going. Though I will say the PS2 version's voice acting does sound a bit more serious. There's a good amount of replayability here. Beat main story mode to unlock Grass Market Street. Complete that to unlock Crisis Mission Mode and Story Mode Special. Completing both campaigns in Story Mode Special will unlock Trial Mode. So yeah. Find the special weapons in Story Mode Special to unlock extra weapon missions in Crisis Mission Mode, with completing boss battles here to unlock those missions in Crisis Mission, and run through both difficulties of Crisis Mission to advance the completion rate. At least 55% completion rate will get you double gun mode, the only time you can use two guns because, well, it's single player only, and 100% completion will unlock infinite ammo in both Story Mode and Story Mode Special. Credits and lives work the same way as they did in the last games like this, but there are no options for free play. Still, this isn't too much of a deal breaker, considering in some ways the game does feel easier depending on the control scheme. Anyways, what good is this stuff if you don't have access to it? So let's jump into story mode to try to earn what we can. When you start playing, you'll be able to select any one of the 3 zones in any order you want to play them, though you can only access the final zone once you complete them all. We'll start with Dry Creek Plaza, the shopping center in the area. This stage will take you through the main foray, a variety of different shops, back areas in these shops, all with a lot of stuff to shoot at, and it culminates in a boss battle with a big-ass tank. There are plenty of machine guns and missile launchers attached to it to shoot. Keep taking its health down and move on to the next zone. Garland Park. It's not as tight as the last stage since you are outdoors, but at the same time there are still a lot of objects to shoot and move around in. You'll move from the east to the west side of the park, with the boss battle of the stage being a helicopter, with several other mini helicopters trying to make it worse for you. The final section here is Garland Technology Center. You'll start by sneaking in through the vents and then make a grand entrance. We're back to dealing with more tighter spaces and many more destructible options. It's not long after you make your way through the office where you encounter the first of 2 bosses in this stage. This big behemoth of a man is known only as Tiger. You don't get much time with him as he flees. As you work your way into another area with some kind of reactor, that's where you encounter the other boss, Edge, known as Edgy in the arcade version. After fighting through here and going through an elevator, you end up in a construction area where you finally square off with both Tiger and Edge.
Nobody can defeat us!
Yeah, McGarren. Bring it on!
Tiger is much bigger and more of a powerful presence. He can throw objects around, he'll try and hit you with beams, and he'll try to smack you with his gun when he can. He's more vulnerable to be hit, though his health bar doesn't drain as fast, but you need to be careful. Edge, on the other hand, is much faster and a bigger pain in the ass. He flips around a lot more, he can throw knives, he'll get up close to slice you. He's the real threat of the two, essentially. You'll have to fend off with both of them, alternating between who you fight. It's definitely going to keep you on your toes, but keep persevering and you'll make it through. Once you get all that done, it's time for the final zone.
We've secured the area, but there is no sign of the ringleader, Derek Lynch. What was that? An earthquake?
Sir,
Below the basement level of this complex, there is an experimental nuclear reactor constructed by Garland Electric. Called Geyser 1, Lynch's target must be the nuclear reactor. Secure it immediately. Geyser 1.
The STF make their descent into Geyser 1 for a final showdown with Derek Lynch.
I have been waiting for you, my STF friends. The atomic reactor is on overdrive. Soon, London will be nothing more than a memory, and then my wrath shall spread. It won't matter for you. You will instantly die here anyway!
Lynch himself is more prone to shooting crisis shots and throwing grenades, but he's not so bad with the right timing of hiding behind cover. There are more tougher armor enemies though, but rest assured you can make it through. Once his back is turned to the glass, well, finish him. The team secure the reactor and save the day.
Nuclear reactor secured. This place is gonna blow! Evacuate immediately! Shut the doors! Get down! Unit, report!
Okay, sir.
No problem,
Still
sir.
in one piece.
This is Squad 1. Mission accomplished. We're going home.
Yes, in true Ghostbusters fashion, they climb this giant staircase. Rest assured, once daylight is seen, that's it. Or is it? Once you complete the arcade mode, you'll unlock Grassmarket District scenario to play through. This campaign takes place 6 months after the Garland Square incident. It seems a new leader has emerged in the wake of Lynch's death, Jared Hunter. To get revenge on the STF, he gathers the remaining forces of the URDA and takes over Grassmarket Street, a busy area with plenty of shops, restaurants, and an open area, and the Belforte Hotel, which also has a casino and rooftop pool. To ensure the STF will be there, he kidnaps the daughter of the STF commander, Melissa Kessler. He demands the surviving URDA members be released in exchange for Melissa. We can't let that happen, so Squad 1 is sent out once again to save the day.
Commander McGarren? We'll save your daughter. You have my word. I'm counting on you.
Sir, we've infiltrated the area.
Grassmarket Street.
This leads into the first level of this campaign, Grassmarket Street. This will take you outdoors while still keeping you in close combat as you move throughout the various shops, restaurants, and other areas. Much like the last area of Dry Creek Plaza, this area concludes with a boss. Say hello to the metamorphic A-0940, an experimental tank-like droid with a lot more weapons than the one you fought before, including freaking lasers. It can turn invisible and is more accurate. It's also a bit of a longer fight. Just keep hammering it away at it and dodge its attacks and it will go down. This takes us to the next section, but not before Jarrett Hunter is informed of A-0940's destruction.
The air units.
Yes, sir.
Didn't I tell you? I told you you'd lose. Hey, mister, you'd better get ready.
Belforte Hotel.
We're entering another majorly indoor area. You'll start in the foyer area and work your way up the escalator. Interesting bit here is that you have to be out of cover to move up. After going up, you'll work your way through the bar/casino area, which is a nice break from what we've seen so far. The final area concludes with a boss fight with Jarrett Hunter himself, once you basically take the elevator up.
I didn't think you'd make it this far. But your luck has run out. I'm gonna settle this once and for all.
He'll be flying around on a jetpack along with several other guards with their own jetpacks. It's like an even worse version of the Edge fight, but without the claws and knives. Make sure not to waste any of your shots here, and be especially careful of crisis flashes. Especially at the end. Keep at it and he goes down. He thinks he can make one last stand, but he's got another thing coming.
Crimson Beach.
Damn, you're annoying. I'm taking you down!
It's time for the final section. He's racing on a boat, so you'll need to keep shooting at it to get him. You'll also have to occasionally deal with jetpack flying enemies, but these guys are easier to hit than before. But the boat is still a pain. More lasers, missiles, crisis shots, etc. You're really going to have to be on point to survive this. Eventually, though, his own hubris catches up with him, and he goes down like every other Time Crisis boss before and since. They get back to the hotel, save Melissa, and eradicate the URDA for good.
Are the hostages all right? Mission accomplished, Commander. All hostages have been rescued.
Roger. Well done. McGarren?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Crisis Zone is an enjoyable shooter for those who enjoyed the Time Crisis games. It looks good, sounds good, controls well, has tons of bonus content, has incredibly destructible environments, runs smooth, and is a good time overall. However, it doesn't really innovate the genre like the others did. The US naming convention doesn't really sit right with me. It can be a bit more hectic than expected for those not into this sort of thing. By and large, you end up with much of the same as before, but just a slightly different flavor. Still, fans of Time Crisis and light gun games in general will enjoy this one. If you don't already have this one, it's kind of up there in the $30 range, with gun bundle copies going for $90. PAL copies clock in at $13, while the gun bundles for those regions are about $56. Not the worst price in the world for this sort of thing, at least for the game by itself, but it might be a little bit much for those who want a one-and-done ordeal. But if you want to go further, I think you're really going to get more mileage at that price point. Although, I do think in some of the other modes do feel a bit samey in some of those regards. But then again, I guess you could kind of apply that to some of the other past stuff seen in Time Crisis 3, but whatever. It is what it is. This was the last GunCon 2 game in North America. PAL users got Def Crimson OX on PS2 for that honor, and this was quite the bang to go out with. I give Crisis Zone a 3.5 out of 5. And I just realized my next review is going to be my 100th review. We're going to have to do something special for that. Give me a bit here, and I'll see you in the next time for what hopefully should be a very special review. Thanks for watching. Click subscribe below and check out the playlist on screen for more content. To help support the show beyond the usual means, check out my Patreon and Ko-fi on the link tree in the description. And come by my Twitch where I conquer my backlog one game at a time. See you in the next video.